I choose to live in America, I really prefer this because since I saw you, I lived for a year in Taiwan during the pandemic.
Yeah.
And by the end of my stay there, I was like, I prefer to live in America.
What was the major difference?
The major difference to me was that socially, just the way you interact socially with your lifestyle in Asia, it's significantly more conservative than the West, right? Like, there's so much more groupthink, there's so much more peer pressure. Everybody rolls in groups, and it's just like you're not really an individual even within the groups. And then people want you to like subscribe to this. You can't hang out with everybody. You got to be like part of this group or that group. And then
So that's a cultural thing.
I think it was very cultural, and I also just think the EQ in Asia is very rule-based when it comes to like emotional intelligence. Like we have very, very specific manners. Like the youngest person is gonna pour tea. Your father eats first. Like even in language, something very simple, which is if your mother's mom, you just be like, that's grandma. In ours, the name for your mother's mom is like Lolo. The name for your father's mom is Nai Nai. It's very specific, and there's a hierarchy. Like your father's mom is higher, your mother's mom is lower. And it's just, to me, I'm like, yo, this is too much critical analysis of like stature. And then your interactions with people are so much based on your standing in society versus theirs. And everybody acts in accordance with this kind of like agreed upon status. It's borderline caste system-y. And then when there isn't like racial diversity either there, it's all Asian people, I was just like, this is a little too cloying for me. But when I look at the government, like China as a government out there, and I was living in Taiwan, spent a lot of time in China. My family, my brother still lives in China. But the Chinese government, to me, is much more effective than the American government. Like, if it wants to get something done, China's going to have it done in 24 hours. You know, the building may fall apart, but it'll be done, you know? But they can get things done. And then I also think, like, you know, they're not a benevolent country. No country's benevolent. It's all a business, right? They're competing for citizens. But their type of feudalism and, like, colonialism compared to American colonialism, I think I would prefer if I was the country being shitted on. Like, America will take you over. It will, you know, they'll send the CIA and they'll do all those things we've seen in all the countries. But China, they'll invest and then own you, which also sucks. It's its own poison.
Pretty clever.
Yeah, it's clever. And I just think there's always going to be a new government and a new, better deal. And, like, I think China's the better deal right now for a place like a developing continent like Africa or Latin America. You probably get better terms with China.
Yeah, they'll give you a loan that you can't pay off. Like, no one in America ever wants to think that there's another option. Like, America's number one, we're the fucking best. It's like American exceptionalism, like that idea it's really fun.
Yeah.
People enjoy doing it. It's a good time. Say we're America and we fucking rule.
Yeah. Those are the people ruining it, because I love America, but we got to look at ourselves and get better.
Yeah.
Like, you can't just stay still.
We also have you know, multiple problems, and there's this idea that it's okay to just send fucking troops all over the place and occupy these places, but it's not okay if they fuck with us. It's like kind of a funny way of looking at things. If you just looked at us as like an entity, you weren't American, you weren't even human, just like, what's going on over here? Oh, this one thing like sends these metal things all over the place and dominates these areas, but they all claim this one spot that's nowhere near the area that they're at. Like, what are they doing?
Yeah.
They're a weird sort of expanded empire.
War is a very outdated method of, like, doing business.
Right.
That's how I feel, because
Right.
war it's a business.
They used to use cannons.
Yeah.
And then they used to use rifles and tanks, and now they're like, you know what, how about we just use them fucking bank accounts?
Yeah.
Yeah.
China's the Me Too response. It's like, ally, we're your ally. Yeah. Allyship. Africa, I'm your ally. Greece, I'm your ally. But in the end, you just work for China.
Also, they have a grip on people right now that I think we should all be very careful that we don't allow to happen here. And the grip on people is a social credit score system. If they develop a social credit score system in America and digital currency, you're gonna have a real problem, because the people that are in control of that system are going to be the ones that tell you what to do, and they're going to dictate life how on their own terms and what's beneficial to them and the ruling class, the people that are in control. And that's a scary, twisted thing that could really happen, especially with all these banks collapsing and all those fucking FTX fucking shenanigans with crypto. That would be very bad.
Can you explain? I don't think I'm grasping the social, like you mean like rating us social.
So they talked about connecting it to a vaccine passport, right? That was bandied about, and people pushed back against that very hard. And the idea would be that if you didn't do this thing, you would not get a passport that would allow you to go places. And you could eventually roll that into a credit score system. And say I go through your tweets, and like Eddie tweets a lot of bad shit about this. I don't like what Eddie's feelings are about pharmaceutical drug companies being responsible for the opioid crisis. This makes me uncomfortable that he wants to get really political about, Rand Paul grilling Dr. Fauci about gain-of-function research. Like, who the fuck is this Eddie Huang guy? What is he doing? Like, why is he doing that? Give him a strike against his social credit score system, and then you go to travel. You go to the airport, or try to buy a ticket online. Like, I'm sorry, you can't buy a ticket. You have a low credit score system,
or even getting a
job. Credit score in the system, or getting a job. I mean, in some ways, we have a version of that now, right? Like, if you're a felon, you can't get a job. That's the worst credit score system that we have. Like, if you were a violent felon, you can't get a job. It's hard.